Hi folks, thought I'd introduce you to my Studiomaster Classic 8 mixer desk, which I'm in the middle of commissioning at the moment, testing all the channels, cleaning all the inputs and outputs before I can get the desk commissioned into a proper position. As part of that commission and clean-up program, we're going to go inside the desk itself, because when these desks were bought in, there was two emerging standards in terms of decibel volume of the inputs and outputs. There was the -10, which became the non-professional or amateur standard music standard, and the +4 dBs. So in between those two systems establishing themselves, these inputs and outputs on the group, which is there, all those 8 channels there, inputs and outputs there, and also on the main output itself, on the XLR output, they can be adjusted by a link pin inside the machine itself to operate at -10 or +4 dBu. Now, I've had this desk about 10 years, I've never really used it, but it does work. I've tested all the channels and they work fine. But what I'm not sure about, because it wasn't mine originally, is whether or not anyone's ever been inside and adjusted it already. So I'm not sure what the outputs are. So before I go and put that horizontally on a desk, which for me makes it more awkward to work on, as you can see at the moment it's side on, and I intend tomorrow to open it up clockwise, or so that the knobs and the potentiometers swing towards us, and it should just open like a book, which allows me an easier access into getting those link pins in the bottom, at the back of those circuits. So this is just an introduction. It's the first part of the story. I'll film the next bit tomorrow. We'll go inside, have a look at the link pins, make any adjustments I need, and then we can put the desk back together. It's quite an easy thing to get open. I've already opened it once. There's actually just a number of little screws, little engineering screws. There's one in that corner removed. The next one there, and the next one there I left in to hold the thing together whilst it stood up. There's then a series of, there's one, and there's only about 18 in total. There's another gone, and there's a couple in at the bottom just to leave it secure while I move it round. I don't want the thing falling apart. So we'll go in tomorrow, we'll have a look from the inside out, and then once we've made those adjustments, I'll put it all back together and I'll run you through the test and show you some flashing lights and how good it is, and how well it sounds and how good it looks. Okay, thanks. Hi again folks, welcome back. It's now the day after the original filming, and I'm just about going to go upstairs, which is where the desk is, to actually get to these bits. But I thought it was worth showing you this schematic plan that's on the manual. Now the bottom row of this shows the inside of the channel strips for the subgroups there, and for the main in and out there. And if we go back down to the subgroups, you can see that at the top of the strip, near to the jacks themselves, there are 3 different coupling link shells that move the inputs and outputs from -10 dBV up to +4 10 dBV. Now, as I said before, I don't know what the desk is set up to do. I want to make sure that that is -10 dBV and it hasn't been moved. That's just because of the Motu unit it's going into is expecting -10 dBV. If needs be in the future, if I do get any +dB4 inputs needed, I can go back in. This is the one I do perhaps need to change. This is the main input and output, and again there's 2 main inputs and outputs. There's be XLR and jack outputs underneath, and again we've got the same here. strangely enough, they're both plus 4 dBm, but one is balanced and one is unbalanced on the left. Now it says it's set up for unbalanced output, which seems a little bit odd. Sorry about the shake. It seems a little bit odd. I want to have it balanced as an output, because that's what's being expected at the Tascam MD40, which will be taking this signal. So that's the plan, and that's why we're getting the unit opened up to have a look, so as we can just check the settings. Okay, see you later. Hi again, folks. We're back with the exploration and look inside of the Mixdown Classic 8 Soundmaster mixing desk. I want to go inside and have a look at the pins that can change the channel dB voltages. As I say, I've got this side on at the moment, and I'm going to be opening the front panel and hinging it away from the casement. Obviously there's physics involved. Once that comes apart, it's going to be a sheet of heavy metal with a weight on one side, and it possibly could fall, so I've got to get ready for that. The casement's not too much of a problem, that can go backwards, but I want the desk to fall against some strategically placed soft furnishings where it can't come to any harm, just for the duration. So what I'll do now is I'll go and remove the screws that are left in just to hold the casement together, 2 there and 2 down at the bottom, and then we'll hinge it open and we'll have a quick look. Whilst I'm on the subject of those screws, I've collected them all here, but I did notice from the manual schematics that there should be 2 different lengths, or I think it shows 2 different lengths of those screws. They all look the same to me, but I will double check on the way out. Hi again, folks. Here we go. We've got the casements apart, and what you're looking at now is the back side, or the underside panel, of all the pots and sliders and faders and circuitry on this side. That's the side leaning against the cushions, and you can just see the bottom of the fader runners there. And this other side here is the bottom casement that it sits in. That's just my light to try and shed some light on things. Just as a quick run round, I don't know it very well. There's the input from the PSU, the separate PSU, probably regulated in some degree there. Next board down there is the MIDI jacks, in, out, through, and that top one is the out to the VDU bar, the channel meter bar, and the bottom panel there appears to be again a channel out to the VDU meter bars, but something else. I can't remember what's on the back of the casement there, but it doesn't matter. What we need to do, and perhaps I should have marked this, is we need to find the master out channels and the 8 group channels, and it's these 2 rails here, and it's useful perhaps if you mark it, I've just discovered, because you have to keep looking around the back. But those first 2 rails there are the left and right master out, and if we follow it round, it's the first 2 channels here of where the group 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The next one, there's a slight gap there, and then the master rails are there. So what we want to do is we want to find, probably along the midpoint, is where a little switch will be, a little jumper will be on the desk somewhere around here at the midpoint. I did find it just, and now I can't see it again. But the group ones are much easier to find because there's 3 of them. I'll try and find them and then zoom in and out so you can see what we're looking at. There we go. If we go over the top here, you can see that they're there. There's one. Let me go down a little bit, try and It's not a very good camera here, but you can see where those two prongs are coming up. That is where there's a link that you can put on those two prongs or the two prongs next to it. And there's one further along the rail. There should be 3 on the sub channels. So I've lost sight of things again. There's the next one's a bit further back in there, and the end one is just there. Let me see if it'll zoom in a little bit. There, it's going out of focus unfortunately. Right, I'm going to go back to the left and right output channels. This is the schematic. Now the standard configuration, the jump cable, which is shown black on the diagram, is on the right hand side of the group of 4 pins, and I want it on the left to make it actually balanced for decibel out instead of unbalanced. It'll go out of focus now, but I'll take you back to the channel strips and show you where these are. If we can just get in at that little light. Unfortunately there are some wires very much in the way. You can just see the little jumper pins there, and as you can see they're on the right as you're looking down at the board. Now that means it's on the standard configuration, so I need to lift them up and take it so as they're on the left. That's the second channel down. That's the one where the extra light is, and what we're going to do is go in there, lift that black casement and put it onto the other 2 pins. I'm going to clean the other 2 pins to make sure we get a good contact. So I'll do that now and show you on both the channels where the pins, the jumper pins, have moved from one location to the other. Okay, a little bit more access to it now. I've done the top channel, which I believe to be the probably the right hand channel, in reverse. Now that jumper pin has moved from one side to the other. It was on the right hand side and now it's on the left. If I go down to the channel below, which I haven't done yet, you can see that the jumper pin is on the other side. So I'm going to go in now and change that one to match the one above, and then I will have changed the left and right master channels to +4 dBVU balanced, not unbalanced. Bit of an odd arrangement, but you can see there the difference between the 2 pin positions left and right. Okay folks, I've done both of the channel switches now. These, I think they're called dip switches or jumper pins really. There's the top one. I'll zoom in a little bit. That's the first one I did, changed from the right hand side to the left hand side. There's the second channel, again changed from the right hand pins onto the left hand pins. That's the one to identify, because right next to that is the meter switch that switches between the masters and the channels as to what you see on the VDU. So on the one above, that's missing, but that's the right hand side of the stereo outs. And if we go back to the diagram, which is now down here, if we go down to the bottom channels, read across here, oh sorry, top strip is the left right out. On the right hand side is the unbalanced 4 dBu standard, which is where they were, and on the left hand side now is the 4 dB balanced option, which is where I want them. So now I'll go down to the subgroups and find out where they're positioned. Right folks, we're going to have a look at the subgroups and the auxiliary inputs. Unfortunately I've got to hold the cable out of the way while I'm doing this, but you should be able to see now that there are 3 jumper pins on each of these channels. I'll just zoom in on the first one. There's the first one, straight in front of the lens. Second one's a little bit hidden, further back, nearer the jack plug. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Back there. And the third one's further up again, but it's nearer the... Let me come out and go back in. It's further at this end, near the top jack. Now I've had a quick look down all these channels, and all the channels appear to be the same. they should all be in a line underneath of each other. They've all got the jumper pins on the left hand side, which is the standard configuration, which means that they're all going to be, let me zoom in on that one, it's about the 5th one down, they're all going to be minus 10 dBu out, which is the standard one that the desk set up for, and it's where I want it to be. Just to confirm, going back to the schematic, if it's on the left it's minus dBV, which is the standard. If it's on the right it's the plus 4 dB, which is the option. I want to leave them just as they are, so now I know what they are and they're in the right place, I can just go back, and all I'm going to do now is very lightly dust the components and get rid of the dust, as much dust as I can, without doing anything too intrusive. I don't want to do anything on the boards themselves, everything works. Well, here you go folks, here's the desk all back together, just about. The hardest bit of this job was actually getting the 2 parts properly back together. It's a big load of weight and a big empty box, and lining up all those screws is a hell of a job. I'd suggest you don't try and do it on your own like I've had to, and just as a precautionary note, although it looks okay, I've actually stripped out the thread on one of the fixings, so I'll have to get an oversized screw in there somehow, oversized bolt. Okay, take care. I'll give you another video when it's up and running. I hope that's been a bit helpful, showing you what the desk looks like from the inside. Cheers.